everybody. Today I'm going to be doing a review of Summerland by Michael Chabon, which this is the audiobook version, as you can kind of see based on the size, and it also has kind of an unfortunate cover. Let's be sad about that together for a moment. Anyway, Summerland tells the tale of Ethan Feld, who is an 11-year-old boy who lives on this island off the coast of Seattle, Washington, with his father, and basically it's summertime, and he plays baseball, and he's very bad at playing baseball, and one day he comes into this field area and meets these ferishers, which are essentially fairies, and they tell him that he's this legendary hero who has to help them save the world, essentially, and it kind of just goes off from there. It's a big adventure story with a little bit of some magical realism, magicalness kind of thrown in, and they meet Sasquatches and were animals and giants and all that kind of stuff, so it's definitely a big semi-fantasy story. I actually thought this was a super cool book from just the concept. This book is actually for 9 to 11-year-olds, technically like a middle grade kind of book, but when I picked it up at the library, I knew nothing about it, and so I was just like, oh, this seems cool, seems like something I would like, interesting, very summery, kind of a read, and it's the end of summer, and I really enjoyed it. It doesn't feel like your typical middle grade YA book. The writing is pretty clear, the writing is pretty crisp, it's still got some complexity to it despite being for a younger audience. It was kind of nice to listen to on the way to and from work, which is how I usually listen to audiobooks. I also thought that the plot was really cool. I like the concept of, baseball being an integral part of this. The fantasy elements were really well done. The world was nicely well built out. And you kind of get a good feel for Ethan as the main character, as well as a couple other characters they meet along the way, which was really nice, including the villain. The villain actually gets some nice characterization, which I enjoyed. I will say that this book kind of dragged a little bit for me in parts. Chabon, I haven't read a lot of books by Michael Chabon, so I don't know if this is just a typical thing of his writing, but sometimes he would be giving descriptions and I was just sort of losing my place in them. There's just a lot of detail that maybe if I'd actually been reading the book it would have been different, but in the listening process I felt like I missed components or kind of would just not care as much about some of the descriptions. I also thought that the end kind of wrapped up a little quickly, a little too conveniently for me, just a little bit. It builds up to this whole thing, you're like, oh, okay, I know exactly how we're going to do this end game, and it's going to be great, and I'm sure there'll be some cool, clever thing, but it wasn't. It just sort of ended, and you're like, oh, okay, I guess that's the end. I did feel like the characters had some growth. You got to see some good maturity. You got to see some nice build-up from the characters going from point A to point B, and it made sense, and it took time. They weren't Ethan, who's bad at baseball at the beginning of the book, doesn't instantly become better the second he's in a different place. It takes time for him to get better, which I liked as well. I definitely think this is a book that I would recommend to people if you like Michael Chabon's other books, which, again, I haven't read any of them, but I'm sure if you like his writing style, you would like this book. I also think it's a good book for the summertime, actually. It was very good for the summer. It felt very summery. They were talking about baseball and summer days, and that's all very American summer, so that was a good time for the summer, too, I would say. Also, the book is called Summerland. How could it not be great for summer? And then, I guess from an audiobook perspective, since I did happen to listen to the audiobook version, the author actually reads the audiobook, which sounds like it would be cool, but I actually really didn't enjoy him as the reader. I think it would have benefited more from having an actual, either audiobook, cast of people, or an author or a reader who had a little bit more variety in their voices. Some of the voices that he does for some of the characters actually were really grating on my ears, and I really didn't enjoy them. For the most part, he was okay, but I think there were parts that it could have been better. And also, Michael Chabon sort of has a weird voice, or his inflections and how he reads is kind of strange. So I guess I would say maybe don't listen to the audiobook version of this. If you want to pick up the book, probably check out the book. So, and I'm giving this a 3 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, which is linked down below. I will be putting a review up of this there on Goodreads as well, if a written review, if you want a little more detail or a different sort of perspective. I hope you guys are doing great. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I'll see you soon with another video. Bye!